But going to the other team, not technically in New York, but sharing the name, the New York Jets, 7-10 last year. Again, we're at this point of the team previews. They really went 7-10. Like, they really had a 7-10 record. That's insane.
That was like 6 wins by the defense.
Yeah, exactly.
And 10 wins by Zach Wilson, just for the other team. Yeah. So, when you think about it, undefeated season. If you think about it that way,
it's kind of mean, Joe.
Yeah, it's
kind of mean.
It checks out. Don't hate me. Hate your team.
I have to turn my camera off and cry for a moment.
That's the depression we were talking about earlier. It's okay.
No, it's all right.
Yeah. Sponsored by BetterHelp Therapy. Same coach, Robert Saleh. Same offense, Aaron Rodgers. Technically Nathaniel Hackett. If he's just there. He's the body. Aaron Rodgers, obviously, quarterback 1 until his other Achilles snaps. 8 plays in this time. Quarterback 20 currently, underdog ADP as of June 10th. Again, this is best ball ADP, not many redrafts happening, so all of these ADPs are going to be based off best ball. RB1, Breece Hall, currently the RB3 being drafted on underdog. Braylon Allen, 61, and Isaiah Davis, 81. No competition for Breece Hall. Fun fact, he's pretty much the lone dog there. I'm sure Braylon Allen and maybe Isaiah Davis will be in there at most to give him relief. So this is Breece Hall's backfield. Speaking of the receiver room, this is Garrett Wilson's receiver room. Wide receiver 8. Mike Williams, they brought over from L.A., dropped down to wide receiver 55. If you don't think Garrett Wilson is going to probably see another 150-plus targets, you're wrong. After that, it drops steeply down to Malachi Corley. Okay, wide receiver 74. And then, for some reason, we have not 1, not 2, but 3 receivers listed, all with an ADP above 100. I didn't write the show sheet. Josh did. Alan Lazard, wide receiver 108, Mr. Alan Lazard. Wide receiver 5, Xavier Gipson. He is strictly on this show sheet because Scott Fishbowl has returned touchdowns in their scoring this year. That is the only reason Xavier Gipson is on this show sheet currently. And you want to know why there's a 6th guy on this sheet? Is because former top 10 NFL draft pick Corey Davis is wide receiver 130 in underdog ADP in his 6th on the New York Jets depth chart.
And he's retired. That's why it's funny.
Jets technically own his rights, right?
Yeah.
They technically own his rights. So, yeah. I mean, if you're under Corey Davis and he's retired, that's a tough look for you. That was
I'm
almost
just trying to figure out why people are still drafting him in underdog at this point.
I mean, remember when
has an ADP?
Remember when they were drafting Randy Moss and he was retired just in case Randy Moss came back and was Randy Moss? What if Corey Davis comes back and is Corey Davis?
Well, then it's subtract. It's negative by addition there.
Subtraction by addition.
Subtraction by addition. It would be the worst thing in the world to put Corey Davis on the field anywhere. I mean, listen, was there ever? I mean, well, no, not was there ever, because there are a ton of guys out there who just flat out miss. But was there ever a stronger fan base in the fantasy community of Corey Davis truthers out there? Who,
I love Corey Davis.
Where are they? Do you?
This guy.
He
was a huge Corey Davis guy.
I love Corey Davis.
Massive.
I was so mad that he just never developed into anything. It was
full
painful.
on Eiffel Tower for that guy. Yeah. He was all about Corey Davis. And you know who I'm all about? Tyler Conklin at tight end 22. Look out. Absolute unit at the tight end 1 for the New York Jets. All right. Let's get into the highlighted players here. Again, we'll highlight Ryan's first just because he's not here. Ryan put out Xavier Gipson. He simply puts it to Scott Fishbowl cheat code. In, I would assume, 99.9% of your leagues, return touchdowns on kick returns or punt returns don't qualify for individual players. Xavier Gipson is not draftable in those leagues. But if you are playing in Scott Fish, Xavier Gipson could be a nice late-round stash because of those return touchdown upsides. He's one of probably the best returners in the NFL currently. We'll jump to the wide receiver room. Mr. Bender, you have Garrett Wilson at wide receiver 8 is currently his ADP. Why do you like him this year?
Listen, I mean, he's ready to take that next step. Obviously, we saw what he's done, like what he's done over the first 2 seasons without a quarterback. I think is pretty impressive. 1,100 yards in his rookie year, over 1,000 last year. Touchdown count hasn't been that high, but again, that's is that Garrett Wilson's fault, or is that the fact that the Jets don't have a quarterback and they can't move the football? You kind of have to go into it here when you're looking at the Jets. Breece Hall is a first round draft pick. Garrett Wilson is tail end of the first round draft pick. So if you're taking one of those players at their ADP, you believe that Aaron Rodgers will be playing 15 to 17 games and that Aaron Rodgers will be reliable. Like Breece Hall, it's kind of funny. Aaron Rodgers kind of, I'm hoping, because as a Jets fan, I'm hoping that Aaron Rodgers has that, realization. Maybe you get somebody gets him to lick a new flavor crystal or something like that, to have that realization that I'm over 40, I'm coming back from a ruptured Achilles tendon, and maybe, just maybe, I shouldn't be such a selfish son of a bitch, and I should just rely on my ground game. I fought it for so long, but maybe there's some validity to doing that. I think I heard the stat that Aaron Rodgers leads I think all quarterbacks in 1 yard touchdowns, right? So that it's that Aaron Rodgers, that if you're taking Breece Hall at his ADP, you're taking Garrett Wilson as his ADP, you're saying that Aaron Rodgers, A, has a clear head, and B, will be healthy for 15 to 17 games. So maybe it's a fanboy in me for the New York Jets. I'm looking at, Garrett Wilson as a guy who is capable of, like you pointed out, there's no other wide receivers in there. Mike Williams will be, he'll be around for 6, 7, 8 games maybe. So you're just going to have to funnel targets to him over and over again. I think he has himself a good solid season here as long as Aaron Rodgers stays healthy. And I think that he's definitely worth it. He's going to be a target monster, that if Aaron Rodgers can even remotely come back and be somewhat of Aaron Rodgers, then he's going to have a big year.
Yeah, I think even if we get 80% of Aaron Rodgers, you can pretty much lock in 150 targets for Garrett Wilson. So, I don't hate it. I think the wide receiver 8 is definitely on the higher side, considering Rodgers' age and what we saw last year and the disappointment that came with Aaron Rodgers not being there. But again, 2 straight 1,000-yard seasons with Zach Wilson as the predominant quarterback.
Dog.
Yeah, that's basically just saying, I'm about as quarterback-proof as you can get. So, I think personally I'd still be a little more comfortable with him as a high-end 2. But I see the value in, hey, a healthy Rodgers, this is an easy wide receiver 1.
But can't you poke holes in that? He's coming off as wide receiver 8, but look at who's at 9, 10, 11. You're talking about guys like Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake London, Chris Olave. You can poke holes in anybody there, any of those. So 100%. Take the guy who's played the last 2 years and been a top wide receiver with garbage at, under center. And I feel
that's probably why I would just pivot to running back at that point.
and Bender, that's such a great point you bring up. I know you've probably played this game on this show. It was invented on the show called Would You Rather. You've never played it before. We invented it probably 4 or 5 years ago when we started doing these shows. Garrett Wilson's in the perfect spot here because at 8, it is a very interesting spot. Your 1 through 5s are pretty clear cut. It's almost personal preference at that point. You have guys in order: CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. For most people, it's personal preference, in all honesty. I think most people are taking CD of all of those, no doubt. But after that, you're getting into pretty much, do you like Amon-Ra more than you like Jamar Chase? And that's where it starts getting a little more nuanced. But here is where it starts getting interesting, because to me, at 6, Puka Nacua feels really fucking high. So, Howard, Puka Nacua or Garrett Wilson?
I will take Garrett Wilson because, listen, I think Puka Nacua has tremendous talent. It was a great year last year. He also had a banged-up Cooper Kupp. Does Cooper Kupp come back healthy? Does he pull in, a little bit more attention this time around? Does McVay try to balance it out between them a little bit a little bit more in order to make this offense a little bit less predictable? So, like I don't necessarily know how many 15 target games Puka Nacua is actually going to get. So I would take Garrett Wilson because I think Garrett Wilson, anytime Rodgers is under center, he's going to have double-digit targets. He's going to have it.
Josh?
I would actually go Puka. I agree with everything that Howard says, but I think Puka's got better yak numbers. And that, to me, is just going to lend itself to it's going to lend itself to more yardage and potentially more touchdowns. Okay. Plus, they're not shy about using Puka in the running game either.
Cool. Move it. I would go Garrett Wilson. Moving to 7, A.J. Brown or Garrett Wilson? Howard.
A.J. Brown, actually. Like the targets that he's going to see. I mean, let's not forget Kellen Moore taking over this offense. You don't have Jason Kelce up in the front. You're not going to be, you're going to be running the football fairly heavily with Saquon Barkley. And that's to open up the downfield work. So anytime you've seen Kellen Moore's offense, he loves hitting those downfield receivers. So I think that A.J. Brown has a surprisingly strong season this year.
Josh?
I think
it's A.J. Brown.
It's A.J. Brown.
It's A.J. Brown. You're an Eagles fan.
Well, I wouldn't say it's not close, Josh.
For him, he's an Eagles
fan. One can very easily score 10 touchdowns. I don't see the other one doing that.
I don't have faith in Jalen Hurts. So I will go Garrett Wilson just based off of last year. Towards the end of last year, I did not like what I saw from them, and I also think they all hate Nick Sirianni secretly. So, it's sabotage, saboteur, as one would say. Jibser, this is the best comment I've ever seen in my life. Aaron Rodgers is the type of guy to put pop rocks up his butt, and not for pleasure, just to experiment, just to see.
I mean, that sounds like your viewer hasn't, experienced any kind of like little butt play. Maybe get your significant other to, use a pinky and see how it feels. I'm just saying.
What's the starter? The pinky or the pop rocks? I feel like pop rocks.
I feel the pinky's got to be the pinky's got to be that because I mean the pop rocks are obviously liquid activated, and so listen.
Well, when you think about it, that's Aaron Rodgers' personal darkness retreat if he puts pop rocks up there. So he's just trying to share the love.
What flavor pop rocks are we talking about? Does that even matter?
Well, Jets. So green apple was that a flavor? I'm a strawberry guy. I love strawberry, so I'd say strawberry.
Strawberry Joe.
What the fuck are we talking about here?
I don't know, but we got a new nickname here. It's Strawberry Joe, everybody.
I love strawberry flavored stuff. Oh, delicious. Strawberry milkshake, gas. Strawberry banana smoothie, insane.
Uncrustables.
The strawberry Uncrustable just had one.
Are you 5?
Yeah, dude. I'm sitting at the desk all day. What am I gonna do? I'm not gonna make a meal or anything like that.
Midlife crisis, depression, and Uncrustables on a Wednesday night at 8:49.
Dude, did you not hear the whole Uncrustable story? Like the Chiefs had a team doctor that was banning Uncrustables.
Why?
And the entire team revolted against him. They fired this dude and they brought back Uncrustables to the team. The team loves the energy that it gives.
When I worked in baseball, there would be snacks in the dugout for the guys that obviously weren't playing that game. And there would be fruit snacks and there would be granola bars. Every single time there was Uncrustables. They would tear that shit up. They love Uncrustables. So it's 100% very true. Last one for the Would You Rather here, because, again, the hype around this guy is massive, and another presumed target hog. Garrett Wilson or Marvin Harrison Jr., Howard?
I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson. I'm going to take the guy who's done it for 2 years as opposed to the guy who's, going to experience some sort of a learning curve, not to mention the fact that it's, you got Kyler Murray. And what he likes to do is, obviously he uses the legs to extend the plays, but, sometimes it doesn't always work out. So give me the guy who's done it before, Garrett Wilson.
Josh?
Garrett Wilson.
Okay. I would say Garrett Wilson as well. I feel Marvin Harrison is probably going to fall a tad come redraft as we get closer I feel like he's going to fall a few pegs, so that might be interesting for people on the wrap if they wanted to double up on receiver. Obviously, that's never going to be me. I always go running back. And speaking of, Breece Hall is number 3, and that is Josh's guy he wants to talk about. RB3 currently, I believe Breece Hall's highest ADP he's had in his career because he was coming off of injury last year, so it wasn't that high. And a lot of people were worried off that injury last year. Very clearly put that to rest as the RB2 last year behind Christian McCaffrey. He was the guy in one of the worst offenses in the NFL. Presume now, assuming Aaron Rodgers is healthy, did the rest of the offense get much better? No, but putting a quarterback back there is only going to help him open up more running lanes. What do you like about Breece Hall at 3?
Well, first off, they upgraded the offensive line. Yes, Morgan Moses, Tyron Smith, a little bit on the older side,
and Morgan Moses is bad. I just want to preface this. Morgan
and
Moses
that's fair, but he's also a right tackle, so it's a little less
and bad.
Less imperative. So, but they did draft a young tackle at 10 overall, and Talise Fuaga's he's got some upside. So, needless to say, Morgan Moses may be short-lived at right tackle, but regardless. Upgraded offensive line weapons is always helpful. Obviously, upgrading the quarterback is always helpful. He has 9 rushing touchdowns over the last 2 years, and not even a full year after ACL. 223 carries, a little over 13 per attempt. He can carry a full load, right? You bring in Braylon Allen in the 4th round. I don't know if Nathaniel Hackett is just trying to convince them that he wants to run an Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon type split, but Braylon Allen ain't that. Give Breece Hall all of the freaking touches. The 95 targets you absolutely love, and we talked about no real wide receiver 2. He could very easily see another 80-plus targets this year, and that's going to play extremely well in PPR leagues. I talked last week about Bijan Robinson having the likely guy to unseat Christian McCaffrey as the RB1. Breece Hall makes a very strong case to do so, and the RB3 price tag is perfectly acceptable for me.
Howard, any thoughts on Breece?
No. I mean, I've kind of summed it up there before. Again, you got to take a leap of faith that Rodgers isn't going to screw him over at the goal line. But again, yeah, there's no competition for touches. I love his work in the passing game. I'm 100% in on Breece Hall at his ADP, maybe even a pick before. Who knows?
Oh, look at that. Breece Hall is currently sandwiched in between Bijan at 2 and Jahmyr Gibbs at 4. Then you're dropping down to Jonathan Taylor and Saquon Barkley at 5 and 6 for those paying attention to ADPs right now. Moving into bets, the best bets for the season long. Players get to choose a sportsbook of their choice, players being Josh Howard and Mr. Ryan, who is not here, Ryan seems to be taking the over on a lot of these guys' passing yards. He has the over on Aaron Rodgers' passing yards, 3,600.5 passing yards. That's minus 112 on FanDuel. He almost hit this with Wilson and Co. So I don't know what that explanation means there, but
shitty quarterbacks almost got that much. Aaron Rodgers should very easily do that.
Fantastic. That's what I figured. Josh, you have the Jets to make the playoffs, but you said no. That is plus 135 on DraftKings. And you also put a secondary one in there, Breece Hall to score 10-plus rushing touchdowns. That's also plus money, plus 190 on FanDuel. So
look, I've seen good running backs on bad teams do really, really well. Even if Aaron Rodgers can't do it, Breece Hall is so electric. He can break some. I think they can move this offense a little better with Tyrod Taylor if Aaron Rodgers doesn't get through the whole season healthy.
And you don't believe they make the playoffs? Music to my ears.
It's a tough conference. I mean,
they're not winning a division.
Well, no, I don't think they will. But again, so at that point, do they sneak in as a 7 seed? The AFC North has some really good teams. The AFC West has the Chiefs. South has probably just the division winner that comes out of it. But
you really wanted to say more teams other than the Chiefs.
I kind of did, not gonna lie. I had to hold myself for a second. I'm like, wait, the Chargers might take a step back, but we talked about them a few weeks ago. Their schedule could line up to where they could end up as a 4 seed or a 5 seed pretty easily. So
you thought of the teams and you're like, they have the Chiefs. That was it. They have the Chiefs.
Was it like 2 years ago, 3 years ago that everybody was going bonkers over the AFC West? It was going to be this ridiculously insane division, and where is it now? It's the Chiefs.
Correct. It is just the Chiefs. And then Bender, you have Garrett Wilson over 1,200 and a half receiving yards. That is even money.
Yeah, it was like really. There's obviously, I mean, this early in time, you bake in because obviously, if anybody gets hurt, you're double dipping there on the chances for the under to hit. So I don't mind that at all. For me, I look at this and I say, well, he had 1,100 yards in his rookie campaign. I expect him to take another step. He has a better quarterback, and so if all things just work out and got to be injury agnostic, I think he clears 1,200 yards for the first time.
If Rodgers is healthy, I don't think there's any way he doesn't clear 1,200. That feels pretty easy.